Hey, here I am again. This is my third video clip. This is going to be on the judicial branch. So here we go. So first of all, this is going to cover legitimacy, like how legitimate are the courts, what they do, and how they can be checked by other branches. So first of all, judges are selected for life. Their salaries are protected. Most judges are elected by the people, not the Supreme Court judges, but like local judges and things like that. One of the key areas that we want to keep in mind is judicial independence is important, so there's not a conflict of interest. So a judge has to take themselves off a case if that could be an issue. We looked at an example of the coal company in our chapter about how one company tried to get a judge on the panel that was more sympathetic to their business practices, and then that was considered a conflict of interest, and so then that didn't stand. Federal judges are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Article 3 of the Constitution is where the judicial power is presented. Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and all cases that involve the Constitution or laws of the land fall under their jurisdiction. There is what is called original jurisdiction, which is the Supreme Court hears the case first, or appellate jurisdiction, where they receive it from a lower court. Federalist 78 connects to the judicial branch, and people were worried about the potential for abuses of power. That would be the anti-federalists. Its basic idea in Federalist 78 was that members of the judiciary wouldn't trample on rights because they are judges for life, and how they go through a long selection process so that they be the best candidates possible. He also said one of his famous quotes that we talked about was, "The power of the sword and the power of the purse are held by Congress and the president. They only have the power of judgment and were outside the political arena and did not pose a threat to liberty." Obviously today, probably we wouldn't agree with that necessarily. We have seen in more recent history, the Supreme Court has gone into the political arena and has a lot of power to make decisions about important issues that a lot of us care about. How the Supreme Court has built its power. One of the really important cases, which is in our 15 important cases, Marbury versus Madison of 1803. That established the idea of judicial review. This is the idea that the Supreme Court can get rid of a law or executive action if it conflicts with the Constitution. This allowed the power of the courts to become stronger because it now allows the courts to interpret the Constitution. Because the Constitution is supreme, it's the most important thing people need to look at. There's two main types of cases in court, criminal and civil. Criminal are the ones that deal with things like robberies and shoplifting and murder. Civil is more like someone didn't pay their bills or parking fines, things like that, things that aren't violent in nature. There's 4 levels of courts: state courts, federal courts, appellate, which are appeals courts, and the Supreme Court. Some important ideas that some of us missed earlier this year when we did some FRQ practices that could come up on the argumentative FRQ that you're going to do first on this year's test. The idea of precedent. The precedent is the Supreme Court decisions can set a precedent or a foundation or basis for future cases, meaning they use that as a way to make decisions. Stare decisis is a word some of us forgot what that was. Sometimes the Supreme Court lets stand an earlier or previous decision because they don't want to create a new precedent. They're fine with what they said before, so they're going to just keep going with that. Judicial restraint versus judicial activism. We talked about that. Some justices feel we should be cautious when we overturn laws and not try to change public policies. That's not their role. Other judges feel like activism is better because justices should review cases and sometimes change policies that they feel like need to be adjusted.